So with that, we'll get going. There's lots in this one too. Okay, so like there's goals and focus and vision. There's lots going on. We can call this, we can go into habits, which we will a little bit. We go into goals, but we have to understand what focus and vision is with when we are talking about goals. So I call goals projects a lot, because a project, you can see it clearly and you can see the end, you can see the beginning, you can see the end. You can, get that project done really quickly, or it might be a month-long project or a 5-year project. So the point is there's a clear interest, right, of an activity or an interest, and it takes attention of concentration. So we have to talk about focus. And I did one of those PowerPoints already on stolen focus. I actually didn't grab that book, so there's 4 sitting here. But the stolen focus, Johann Hari, I'll talk about in a minute. But so we have to have concentration and focus, and then we have to reduce stress and increase productivity and motivation. So we have to understand what motivation is, and lots of parents and lots of coworkers are like, I wish my kids were more motivated, or my coworkers were motivated, or this needs to happen this time. And there's a real science to motivation, and it's not what you think. And maintaining and completing the object of the goal. So you have to have an objective and you have to have an object of focus to get to that. And these are all just from books. I do all scientific research in books, and I always review or read full books before each PowerPoint. So and so it's not just me talking. And then the vision of the future. I'm a very visual person, and I do lots of future templates with trauma work. And so we have to see what the future looks like. We have to have hope in that it can be different, we can do something with a system. And then we have to have a value and a higher purpose behind it to get there. This quote over here, change might be, it's not fast. We have to get that out of the way right now. There's no such thing. It's a myth of a 21-day habit. That's a huge myth. And so it's not fast. It's not always easy, or we would be doing it. And I'll just talk about myself through this, because I just make fun of myself. I would stop donuts if I could, if it was easy, but I don't. I like donuts. So, but with time and effort, a habit can be reshaped. And we're going to talk about the brain and how that works, because it's the brain. So this is from one book, Power of the Habit. And he does talk about research in here quite a bit. And I have a couple quotes from there. So look at that book. But but goals, habits, 7 habits of highly effective people, right? So I start with, excuse me, we start with values, because we have to know what our time, energy, and money is going to, because that is where we have to start. We have to back up way, 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 way further. So when we hit January 1, I've said this probably thousands of times teaching big groups. It's a worse time to make a goal, but it's kind of the best time, because we've ruined our life for about 6 weeks. We've eaten too much, we've slept too much, we've worked too much, we've spent too much money, we've have so much energy towards the holidays, and we're burned out in January. So January 1 comes, says, man, I feel like crap. I need to sleep better. Oh, I need to lose 10 pounds. Oh, I'm really going to go to the gym this time. And we all do this like change, and we make a goal. Now, I want you to write down, if you're the exception to the rule, I want you to write down if you have kept that New Year's resolution for the last 10 years that you made 10 years ago. And if you can even remember what that New Year's resolution was, something shifted in you if you did, really big time. So I'm glad someone likes The Power of Habit. I have 2 copies of it. So write down, if I kept my New Year's resolution, if you can even remember what your New Year's resolution was, like some year, just 1 year, great. Because 78% of people are done with their New Year's resolution under 3 weeks of starting it. So it didn't work. So, okay. So yes, kept notes. I do the same thing. Okay. But I don't do in January. And I stopped making them. I keep my news good. Some people stop making them because there is a different way to do it too. There's just not one way, the way that we learned, you know. But the thing is what I do is I do birthday months, right? So I specifically change my planner every April. I'm not going to tell you when my birthday is, to the first part of May, and I redo my year stuff, right? And in the beginning of my elephant, which I always recommend, is my focus and my goals, my focus. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know. And I don't really do specific goals, but I do pick, you know, here's your vision board, here's your map. It's all in here in the beginning, right? And then I can make lots of notes, and there's lots of notes in the back. Every book I read, every seminar I take, every training I do, it's always in the back of my book for that year. And then I keep my books. So that's a good way to do it. Also, I pick one book for the year and I read it over and over and over again. And then that is my focus. Okay. So that is, and I always pick one book that I want to live by, which is my value system. And when you actually read a book 12 times, it pretty much sticks quite a bit. Okay. So that's just my ideas. But here's your vision board, right? So before we get into all the goal stuff and the motivation and how we keep goals going, we have to understand what it is we're doing it for. So your higher purpose, I call it, is big. And there's 9 main environments. Okay. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up here. And then so there's 2 in the middle, by the way. So there's 9 main environments that you live in: your body, your soul, your work, your home, you know, all these things. And so you pick your environments. If you want to make a new goal in one of those environments, you clean it up. So if you want to make your home a better environment, you clean it up, literally. Relationships, you clean it up. Spirituality, yeah. So you just pick one of those, look at your vision board. You probably all know how to make one. I did one in undergrad when I was in my family studies, undergrad. At college, and it was probably the first time I'd really done one, you know. And I think I was in Covey's, I did a certification with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I think we did one in there because he talks a lot about the vision and then, your personal mission statement, right? So that's how I always put, that mission statement thing together every year. That's better than a New Year's resolution. What's your mission statement? What's your goals for changing your value system? Which that does change, by the way, with your developmental stages. Values always change. So I have this in multiple workshops. It's repetitive because it's so important to look at your balance. So basically, we're going to go into time first a little bit, right? So first we have to decide where our time goes. And the only way you do that is if you track it for about 4 weeks and you look at where your time goes: physical, mental, social, and emotional. That's not your environments. This is your balance. The last one was your environment. But where is your balance? Are you putting enough into physical or social, or too much into mental because you're in school and you have lots of, you're learning all the time. So you're doing new tasks all the time. You're finding your judgment in that. It's very mentally draining, right? It's a lot of work. But then your physical, if you're not balanced, if your physical will go, and then your emotional will go. So we've got to be balanced in these, and some ideas of, we got to be in a stable place to live, to be grounded and connected. So just look at this too. Keep track of your time. It's super easy if you have a planner to track your time. There's 168 hours in a week, and we all have the same amount of time across the board. Every single person on this planet has the exact same hours. And you think, wow, what did I do with 168 hours of my week. So yeah. So Heather put in a vision board making one. That's good. I looked up some of those too. It's like, oh, super easy, super fun. But I really now believe in that when you really visualize what you can do, because I've done it myself in the last 6 years, and it's transforming. It really is. So these are some questions to take a break for a second and write down, okay, how can you improve in this area? Whatever area it is, in your environment, in your spiritual, in your relationships, in your focus, how do you self-soothe? So find your environment and what support do you need and who do you give yourself support? How balanced are you? We went over that. And how to use your time, go over that, 168 hours. So you're just picking some of these. Do you say no enough? Do you celebrate and have a reward system? We're going to talk about that. And it's super, super important if you know, to play and relax. So if that's not happening and you don't have a reward system, you won't get to motivation, I promise you. So then you just pick, so someone says, okay, maybe I could say no more. Okay. So you pick that and say, what does that really look like? Because we're going to go over SMART goals, of course, and you have to be able to measure it and it has to be reasonable. Can you just say no to everyone? No, it's not reasonable. But can you say, you know what, I'm going to get back with you on that and think about it and then decide if you can put it on your plate. This is a bowl, but I use a plate too. What is on your plate? What is in your bowl, right? And what can you add to it? What's going to sink you? What if you put something else on your plate? Are you going to sink? You know, and that's when we have to say no. Okay, so back to the time. Or not back to it, but continuing. So this is Covey's. So here's the clock in the management: commitments, appointments, schedules, goals, projects, right? And activities. This is in my plan. Everything is scheduled. Everything's written down. No kidding. Because it gets out of me and I'm a very good manager. My manager comes out. And so here's the vision though. So here's vision is values and principles, mission, direction, control, and power. And our wake up calls, he says, when what we're doing doesn't contribute to what is most important. And man, did we not learn that? Sorry, but through COVID, we shifted some things. We really did. And I think we're right back to, you know, doing the thing. But did we shift and keep with our values? We realized what we do with our time and energy might not be as important. But then we're like, no, actually, it was super important. My kids' soccer games were super important. They are. But having 10 kids with 10 soccer games in one day, right? You know, that was an extreme, but, you know, like, okay, maybe not. And we actually were home together alone a lot more than we've ever been, but we're home together, but we're alone. We're very disconnected. So then we decided what's most important. And I have a whole workshop on that about like family dinner. We've actually staying home more than we've ever been before in America's history. We're still making dinner at a reasonable rate, which is one of the scientifically best thing you can ever do for your family is eat dinner together. So that's a goal, right? So how do we get the whole family, the whole environment on cleaning up the kitchen and what we eat and what we do with our power room, which is the kitchen. So then your whole family can have a value system and a mission statement and a direction. And we're going to take turns making dinner. And, you know, someone's going to be in charge of the grocery list and you know, buying the groceries. But we're going to have a different vision. And that takes time, scheduling, commitment, everything. And that's why it's hard to do, because we just kind of like, yeah. But then you have to reward yourself with like, you know, pizza on Friday night. So this is just a little more of the quadrants. I have a whole workshop on time management that's referenced in the back of this. A little bit of that if you want to go into this more, okay? But I just put it up there. So it's really what you do with your time, what's important, what's not important. Quadrant 4 is this busy stuff that actually we go into avoidances, okay? They're time wasters. So we get real busy, we do things and we double task, multitask where we are not present. Yeah, and we get in trouble. So quadrant 4 activities are not where we want to be. 1 and 2, you know, you have to realize, and I call them, instead of do 1, 2, 3, I do A, B, and C. We do A, B, and C in order of what we need to get done. And that's how we stay with our goals and our habits. Okay. Okay. So we're going to shift to now what the problem is. So we have to understand the problem before we can get positive results of doing a goal and mind-driven habit of that goes into our brain that sticks. These are the things that causes us not to focus. These are just some of them. And this guy, you know, Johan Hari is one of my favorite authors. And this was his new book that he just came out with. And so this is from that. He explains, this is the whole book on one slide, by the way, almost. Just kidding, it's that big. What has happened to Americans, but he's a journalist. He goes through lots of research. He wrote Lost Connections. He also wrote, you know, it's Everything We Knew About Addiction Is Wrong, that TED Talk. So, you know, that's how he started out. And it's like, he's so spot on because he finds the research and puts it all together. So this is just look at these things. Okay. So these are some problems. Okay. And if you need to look at one of these things, for example, the class of sustained reading, 57% of Americans do not read a single book in a typical year. Not you guys that are in here, because you guys are like, you're growth mindset people. You want to be educated. You use benefit, you know, the benefit for your benefit. So you probably hopefully read something. So just look at this list. You can go into this more about my focus workshop, but this has become a severe problem. And most 90% of Americans reported that their number one complaint in life after COVID, during COVID, you know, is lack of focus, loss of focus. Okay. And then he comes out with a book, Stolen Focus. So that's referenced there. So for example, this is what happens if you read every day. This is scientific. Improves your mental health. You live longer. You reduce stress. Improve your communication. This is why my website that I designed is called Paperback Connections, because I connect books and knowledge together. And that's where I get real crazy. I never was like this before in my life, where I collect two things, shoes and books. So shoes I never have to grow out of. Books I'm never going to grow out of. So it's safe for me. Okay. So let's talk about SMART. You've all heard of this, the SMART goals, right? But it's still really relevant. It is. You got to be precise, and it has to be measurable, and it has to be achievable or attainable. I've heard, you've heard both, right? But it's really achievable. Is this goal reasonable? But man, we are really good at talking ourselves out of it, that we're pretty sure that's not going to be able to be achieved. And then relevant is the value system. It has to be relevant to your higher purpose. Okay. You can't just have, and that's what I think happens with New Year's resolutions is it's not relevant. So make sure it's relevant. And that's, I think, one of the most important. That should be the first one. You have to figure out what you're doing it for. Is it for someone else? Is it for, right, the wrong reasons? Let's see, let me read the chat. I mean, you should just go to the link and I can get done with what I can actually get done. Yeah. It depends on where your focus is, and if you think you're going to multitask, and if that's going to help you, which it doesn't. Scientifically, multitasking doesn't work. Time bound, it has to be goal oriented, time based. I've got a book reference in the back of this that's in my other office that I didn't grab. It's called 5 Years, and it's a really cute little book and I wish I would have grabbed it, but it's referenced. But I always say to clients, is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is this going to matter in 5 months? I don't know why I do fives, but it's because of that 5-year book. Is this going to matter in 5 years? So if it's going to, and I ask that to my client, is like, okay, so, or I say, yeah, this is really important what we're talking about because this is going to matter in 5 years right now. So if you drop out of college, is it going to matter in 5 months? No matter in 5 years? I don't know, because you can jump back in. But if you make your bed right now, every morning before you go to school, is it going to matter in 5 minutes? Well, maybe. Is it going to matter in 5 months? Is it going to matter in 5 years? Well, as parents, you think, yes, it is, because I'm teaching my child a habit to get into, that make their bed every morning. And you don't know how many parents have, no offense, if you want your kids to make your bed, I want my kids to make my bed. My husband makes my bed. So, okay. If that's what you want to focus on, my kid can't make their bed, then let's make a, goal. But if it's not their goal, and if they don't have attunement, trust, and attachment to you, they will not listen to you bossing them about their bed and about anything else they do in life. And that's a whole other workshop that comes with attachment and trust. And it's like, let's worry about the attunement and the attachment. And then they're going to come up with that, hopefully, motivation after we get to this other part of this workshop, because we've got to help coach and challenge them to get to their own motivation. But we can help them get a reward system according to their value system. But if you're pushing your values onto your child, which is maybe making the bed, maybe not, I've just thrown out that example, then they're not going to want your value system. They could care less. And then there's some kids that are like, yeah, I modeled my parents. I like my bed made. It makes me feel good when I come home or get in it at the end of the day. And they have to see that own internal reward system. You see what I'm saying? To make it a habit. So let's chat about that for a minute. Who wants to, motivating part for me of SMART is time bound. So we have to have it time bound. It has to be written, but it has to be, and then that's not in the SMART goals, but Covey talks about that. And I've quoted him, if it's not written down, it's not going to happen. So we have to focus on that. But the thing is it helps me write down lists so I can see. And it's like, okay, this is an A, B, or C. This is quadrant 1, 2, or 3. And it's most important to do this first. I juggle quite a few things. I have 7 children, and several of them are all over the place. Some of them live with me. I have 3 jobs, and I do pretty well. And I'm not burned out. I'm pretty balanced. I'm pretty happy. So it's just that way. And I do therapy for 40 to 50 hours a week. So yeah, it's a wish if you don't write it down. But if you don't visit it, right, and if it's not time bound, it will not happen. But even if it says, this is what I'd like to accomplish this year, is it okay to push it to my big list for the year, right? That's in front of my planner. Is it okay to say, you know what? I did 90% of that. I still need to finish that up. I'm going to push it to the next year. Absolutely. Because we're not perfectionists. We don't need to be perfect. So that's the problem, is we get shut down because we think we have to do this perfectly. So this is why we end our, New Year's resolutions, because we just relapse. We immediately relapse, and then we never go back to it. And we think we can't do it again because it was 100%. And so if it's 100%, you're bound to fail. So it doesn't need to be 100%. Okay, so this new habit thing, I'm going to go into the brain and why we have to do certain things for it to last after all this, now that we know how to start, right? So this one is cue, routine, and reward. And this is why I made, out of all these other books, a handout that's at the end of this. about this, and it's hugely about the reward. But then the beginning is that self-discipline, delaying gratification. But here's how to do it. You have to have a cue. A cue is, it falls in a category: time, location, emotional state, other people, and a habit is an action, with a routine, right? So we have to have a routine of an action. You have to actually do it. I don't have a reference, but I love, I'm not quite in, but love, Huberman Lab. So he's a neuroscientist that has ended up doing a lot of mental health podcasts. If you like podcasting, oh my gosh, he just blows my mind. So he has one, and I didn't reference it, but if you looked up goals, he talks about this. You pick 4 to 6 things a day that's new, a routine. Okay, you have a trigger, you want to start a habit. You add, and I'll put it in the chat. It's Huberman is how you really say it. I say Huberman, but it's really Huberman, how you pronounce his name. Huberman Labs, if you looked him up. And so you basically, it's like, okay, I'm going to do 4 to 6 things, and you just jot them down. And I'm going to do this for a month or 2 or 3. 3 is even better. And you're going to pick 4 out of the 6 things. See, no perfectionism, just 4 out of the 6 things. And they're only 5 to 10 minutes. They're new things, like sitting and breathing for 5 minutes, drinking more water, going on a walk for 10 minutes, something new that you're going to add, right? And you're going to pick 4 of them. And you're going to, try to do 4 out of the 6, and then kind of keep track. And that's the routine. And then there's a reward of a desired outcome. Okay. Single most keystone for individual is willpower, self-control, self-discipline. It actually is true. There is a physical sensation of craving that happens in the book. So he talks about some research studies and everything, but there is a 5 years of participation about a toothpaste, right? So what happened with consumers that actually wanted them to brush their teeth was a physical sensation with toothpaste. And it's a long story, so I won't go into it, but he created a craving. And that craving, it turns out, is what makes cues and rewards work. That craving is what powers the habit loop. It's probably why Coca-Cola works so well. Diet Coke, yeah. But no, that's an addiction, but that's caffeine. But it's the same thing. It's actually the sensation and the physical sensation of conditioning, just like dogs, right? So we think about going to get a Coke or getting us a reward system, and it gives a physical sensation, and it's a reward system. If you're using it as a reward system, like, hey, I deserve a Coke today. I do it all the time. Not all the time, but all the time. Yeah. That's with my donut, thing. It's like, okay, Dr. Pepper. So, but self-discipline is why self-control, self-discipline we're going to get to, and so delaying gratification is the second one that I'm going to get into, because this is only this far, and then this is Road Less Traveled book that talks about self-discipline and delaying gratification of balance. And that's called The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. So I combined all of these into this worksheet, I promise you. Okay. So this is my worksheet that I've had for years and years and years, because I actually made it because a parent came to me years and years ago and said, I want my kid to make their bed. And that's why I'm here. If he would just learn, or she would just learn to make their bed every morning and know that is such a great habit to do. I said, okay, yeah. So self-discipline, balance up there is the top. You have to look at your physical first, your mental, social. That's why I do balance, right? Is first. That's Road Less Traveled. Physical is first. I always do tons of physical, because if you're not sleeping, good luck. You will never get through anything else. Then you have to have boundaries around that. Then you have to have time, energy, money, values. I've already gone over that. And then higher purpose. So Scott Peck talks about higher purpose so much in there. Okay, then you delay gratification. Then he talks about the marshmallow study. And we do tons of how do we get our kids to delay gratification? How do we delay gratification? How do we set ourselves up for success to delay gratification so we can have power instead of someone or something having power over us? So we have to have self-control. Then the biggest thing that we miss, schedule it. See this reward, it has to be scheduled, is a healthy 10-minute to 2-hour distraction, not an avoidance. We have to have a reward system. So there's empty checks there that you write in 3 reward systems. When I do this, I get this. When I do this, I feel this. And that is internal and external rewards sometimes. Because if you exercise for 6 months straight and you do not relapse and you're on your way, say 3 times a week, or maybe your goal was 3 to 6 times a week or 2 to 4 times a week. Don't make it perfect. That's not how this works. Your goal is just this much or this much every week, and you do that for 6 months. You're going to have internal rewards. You will, because you'll see a difference in your appearance, and which I'm still waiting for, because I don't go to the gym. I go to the gym for the sauna, so that's a lie. I do go to the gym, but yeah. So that's my thing. Honestly, if I can be on, I want to have a more steady, right? But I'm super active. I'm outside, I work, but it's like, and I hike or walk, but steady, right? Because I'm getting to that age where we have to do something steady. But it's like, I don't know if I have the delaying gratification yet, and the self-discipline yet, because I haven't done it. I've done it sometimes, but okay, let's see. And I actually signed in as myself, so I can't let anyone into, but I'll let Heather know. Heather, let someone in. I think someone's.
Hey, I'm here and I don't see anyone waiting.
Okay.
So I don't know if they got in or if they gave up.
Maybe she gave up. So go into the reward system is super important. So I have said with this before, one of my reward systems is cleaning my car. It's really weird. I love it. I have an automatic, it's scheduled, it's with it. I have my time, energy, money. It's pulled out of my account. So I have an unlimited car wash, and I love washing my car because that's my reward system. It's a deeper reward system is my car. And I love driving. I love, my car. So I'm going to take care of it. And I love getting in a clean car. So it makes me super happy. So I have values and core system. I have an internal, external course, and I have it makes me happy. So I have an emotion behind it, and I repeat it because I'm self-disciplined with it. So my car's clean pretty much all the time. So, okay. So then I do it again. See, it's just weird, but resiliency is time. And then the 6 stages, if you don't know what that is, don't worry. I have 2 handouts in the back of this PowerPoint that explains the 6 stages of change. It is one of my favorite models that I have used for years and years, and especially with just normal little change all the way up to addiction, because that's where it started. It's really 7 stages now because he added termination, but it's a cool, and this is why it's super important. If you really want long-lasting change, you have to go by the brain. It takes time, and if you relapse in those stages, we start over. Not at the level that we were before, maybe. So say you lose 30 pounds and you relapse for 2 weeks and eat a bunch of ice cream. This is my agenda that I always talk about of relapsing, and you eat a bunch of ice cream and you're diabetic and your blood sugar goes crazy, and you go back to the doctor and you're like, okay, wait, I got to get back on track. So you relapse for 2 weeks. So there is a portion of relapse that happened for sure, total denial. But if you didn't fully relapse because you didn't gain back your 30 pounds, but your brain says, see, you can go right back to your bad habits, and we have to start over with the time. Okay. So how do we get started with some of this? We have to understand what increases our motivation, but we also have to understand what stops us. So I like start better than stop, because I'm a starter. We're going to run a race and we're going to find out where our ending point is, but we're going to know where we're going in between. You have to find out what triggers, what roadblocks are going to come in your way, and you're going to try to reach out, have support, right? That makes you relapse. So if you want to stop drinking alcohol and you have a buddy that brings over a 6-pack every weekend, is that going to help you? I don't think so. So we're going to have to find out those triggers that are interfering with your goals. And those sometimes are people. And so we have to have boundaries around people. I think those are the biggest ones. Does one goal stand out being more doable than others? Pick that one. Pick that one and just start there. Right? So, and just start. Okay. So we're going to have time to recap and go through this and then go through the workshop handouts a little bit that are just listed in here, and then references and questions. So as I said, we prioritize tasks A, B, and C, tasks, goals, whatever we do, because in order to be balanced, we have to say, this is first. In order to stay on track, we have to do that. So we have to eliminate avoidant. Remember, avoidant behavior is 2 hours plus of doing something. For adults, it's only, I do it 1 hour for kids. So if you're watching more than 2 hours of TV straight, we've now gone into an avoidance. Now you can finish your show at 2 hours and 15 minutes and you go to the movies, great. I'm just saying in general, if we're avoiding something, if we've got a kiddo that is gaming for more than 1 hour at a time, it has now gone into mirror neurons and you're avoidant in your brain. You have checked out. So that doesn't help. You lose time. Okay, that's the problem. 10-minute tasks, everything's timed. The boss is the time and the time is your boss. So I put parents, and kids are, I'm like, no, your parent's not the boss. Time is. Don't multitask, set routines, schedule it if we won't happen. We said that. So planner it. That's my planner. Clean up your environment, do your best. Okay. I know I'm going fast. A few things on here. Sleep. Ants, don't listen to your ants. Those are automatic negative thoughts. So before I forget to explain that, I teach that in the anxiety program. How to do little breathing exercises to calm the body. If we don't have a relaxed body, you're not going to be focused on very much of anything. So that's where we lose focus, is because of our body. So we're supposed to daydream. Omega-3s are the best for the brain, and L-tyrosine for focus. So those are just two small ones. L-tyrosine is an amino acid that helps with focus. It's a neurotransmitter. So omega-3 is just your huge part that we're depleted in healthy fats for our brain, so we can keep our brain health going. That just helps with focus. So all these things help us with focus. The biggest thing in statistics is how to regain focus is taking a break. Seriously. Okay, so I have to read this because I remembered this was so relevant. Plus, taking breaks, especially when you're heated and your body's not healthy, or you're having a fight with somebody, you got to take a break. So also, the biggest thing that researchers have found is that belief itself that makes the difference. Once people learn how to believe in something, that skill started spilling over to other parts of their lives until they started believing they could change. So belief is a huge reworked habit loop, they call it, into a permanent behavior. So that's where I totally believe in that. It's what you believe in, and that is a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. So a growth mindset says, hey, I have the ability. Failure's okay. I can start, I can get up and go again. I can learn from this. And it's just a really positive, like growth mindset way of thinking. So that's not on here, but I just wanted to add that. So ants are the automatic negative thoughts. So those are little ants that are running around in your brain that you go automatically into a neural pathway that says, this is what's going to happen if you do this, or this is what this person's going to say to you or think of you. So as I go into one handout, we have to go into the stages of change, because the point is the brain needs 3 months, okay, to have an experience and have an experiment. So you're experimenting for 3 months with something new. It's not 21 days. It's not at all. So the brain neural pathways have to be formed, okay? So it's 3 months, okay, to start an experiment. So I'm going to show you this workshop. Stages of change. So right in here, we have like either this one or this one. So either one. So let me just jump down to here. So pre-contemplation, denial, contemplation. Within a month, I'll do something new. Okay, we're past this. Prep stage, maybe I'll join a gym, and then you actually do, but you don't do anything yet. Okay, so you got that. So action, 1 to 3 months is experimental. Okay, you're just experimenting. You're doing a new parenting thing. You're doing, you are exercising or meditating or doing yoga 3 times a week. So you're going to experiment to see if you can do it for 3 months. Now, if you miss a week, like I said, okay, did you relapse? Did you start into pre-contemplation? Were you in denial? Maybe a little bit, but you went right back into action. Okay. If you miss 3 months and you don't start, you're starting completely over. You just went into denial. I'm saying like, okay, we didn't do something for a week and you jump back on. Okay. Right. But you know exactly how to go into it again. Okay. But it's still experimental. Okay. And then you go 3 to 6 months with a new behavior. And change is more visible to others. That's what's huge. People will start noticing, hey, you look different. You don't look so tired, or you're doing something different, or, And my substance abuse clients that I taught groups to, this was huge because they were only in treatment. The average was 3 to 6 months because they were low offenders. And so 3 months, they were, 1 to 3 months is the average. So they were only in treatment in group for 3 months, and they had to be tested. So no drugs, no alcohol. Okay. And we use this all the time. So at the end of 3 months, do you know how many people told me and how different people looked? And people told them how different they looked. Their skin, of course, it's huge. Their body, their energy, their commitment, they've lost weight. From just like, say, stop drinking. They're hugely outward, so here's the external with such a good reward, but the internal started happening just a little bit. So then at the 3 to 6 month, they're like, okay, I can maintain this behavior. But the neural pathways don't break off and die yet until 5 years. Okay. It's 6 months to 5 years of maintaining something. Now, that habit or that thing that you used to do, if you're not using that neural pathway in your brain, we now know neuroscience says it breaks off and dies. So we can change the brain 110%. But we have to replace it and make new neural pathways. So this is why it takes time, but change never ends this action without strong commitment of maintenance, right? We steady. And if we relapse, we go straight into pre-contemplation and then contemplation. And then we have to go all the way through to action again. Okay. Now read this down here. How many times does it take for people to go through these stages without relapsing? 3 to 4 times at least before they have to go through the cycle. And that's probably pretty low without one slip up. So yeah, 4 times, 6 times mostly. Most will return to the contemplation stage of change. Slips gives us the opportunity to learn. So that's all it is. Hey, I've learned a lot from this. I learned that this environment needed to be cleaned up so I could make it to the gym. Okay. So any questions on that one? Core values. So those are just some handouts that you can print, or you can go to my website and you can find this one. And let me check the chat. Anything from Heather? Let's see. Without worrying about tomorrow, yesterday, yeah, being present is what your state of mind, the body chemical system. So let's see, we will be stress-free. Yes. And it's not about completely being stress-free, it's about friending stress. And I actually have that website right here. So stress science, YouTube. So these are the ones that are related to this if you want to watch some more. And I was apologizing, like, if you want to listen to me some more. Brain Success goes over a lot of this, okay? Time management, stress science, and addiction in the brain. So the addiction in the brain goes over the 6 stages of change even more. Stress science is so good because that's what hijacks us to shut down. And the planner I use is a elephant. I've used it for about 4, 5 straight years now, and it's just my go-to. So I've used a lot of plan, but it's just an elephant. It's called Elephant. This simple elephant. I just get on Amazon. So I get a different color every year. So I know which year, like, so I can keep them apart. I can actually put the year in the front and be, okay, this color is. So, and this is the thing about the elephant, is the back. So this is everything I study, and I have about this much room to put in, you know, you can journal, but I put in every book that I read and every workshop, like I said, so I make notes. So I always reference this when I can't remember something because I've written it down. So anything else?